Hi everyone, this is Justine.
And it's Alicia here. We're here with Woo Manufacturing, our podcast about badass women and what it's like to work in the manufacturing environment. And I'm really excited to introduce our guest today, which is my friend Adrienne, and just got to know her fairly recently. She popped into my world and we were essentially working on some projects together, and we were at a conference together recently and I got to see her speak, and I just think she's a badass woman and I cannot wait to hear from her about her journey. Hello, Adrienne.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on. This is great. And, again, we've really kind of crashed into each other's worlds in the best possible way recently. So thanks so much for having me on.
I'm super stoked to have you on. And I want to start out before we get into kind of where our worlds collided to just hear a little bit about your journey, because I know you ended up in industrial automation by the time we met each other, but you have a whole history of entrepreneurship and a lot of creative things in your life. And I would love for you to get Justine and I and the listeners up to speed with who Adrienne is.
Absolutely. So, I had a funny kind of almost a predictive thing many, many years ago, even before I went to college. I had an internship at a bakery plant. Dad had a friend and was like, hey, let's go do a tour, and he's going to show us around. And turns out they liked some questions that I was asking because, if there's one thing about me, I'm really curious. I always want to know, oh, how is this made? I can remember being like a kid and looking at the, some of the mold marks on toys and trying to imagine the machine that had made them, things like that. And so I was asking a bunch of questions, and I got offered an internship, just kind of on the spot. And all of the other interns were industrial engineering students. And then there was me with my little computer science degree. And I was there for 5 summers and absolutely was fascinated with it. That was the first time I heard the name Alan Bradley. I did some safety and sanitation manuals. I did some drawings in Excel in a way that if I try to explain it to you, you're going to think that is bananas.
Can we pause for FU, Alan and Bradley for one moment?
I thought you liked them. They're like consistent products.
Consistent old friends that love to give me hell and gaslight me, but whatever.
Oh, I did see something from you on LinkedIn today about compatibility issue, was it, or was it something else?
Fatal error for no goddamn reason. Anyway, no, please continue, Adrienne. We love internships, by the way, and so I'm already super fascinated.
Well, I'll have to find one of my notebooks. There does still exist, and I'm not even going to tell you how old these pieces of paper are, but some of the drawings that I had done in Excel. And by the end of things, I had started sort of almost doing almost like a faux 3D type of look, and people were loving them. But it helped them really, okay, I need to clean this, pie filling kettle a certain way. And, so I did some time and motion studies. Anytime, they needed something sent up to the control room, ask me first because I'm stoked about it. I want to see, all these, just fascinating screens. The control room was always my favorite because you could see what was going on anywhere in the plant. And of course, all these, ancient CRT monitors, because this was a while back ago. And I was just always fascinated by it. And you'd have to go up this staircase, and there are all these like micro silos in there, and they would discharge micro ingredients every now and then. And so, part of the fun was making sure you didn't startle. So, because if somebody saw you startle, I was like, oh, no one can see me startle, for whatever reason. But
What do you mean startle? I'm confused.
So, you're walking up a staircase, and then you'll hear like, and then it'll be really loud, and you'll jump because you've got earplugs in and everything too. But, I'm like, oh no, I can't jump. Must Must be stoic.
Oh,
Gotta
that's funny.
gotta
It's
hold it
like a
aside.
plant
Yeah.
culture almost. Like you can tell who's visiting or is new because the very reasonable startling noise startles them, and you're like,
Exactly.
weak.
Yeah. I'm like, must not show weakness. Must not.
I see you, newbie.
Exactly. But then you also learn cool stuff like, oh, I'm gonna stop by the QC lab, and oh, you're done testing these cookies. Can I should I take these up to the office? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yes. So then you can kind of ingratiate yourself with other college students, but then have the actual real adults are like, crap, I'm trying to like drop a few pounds, and you're bringing another dozen cookies up here. Thanks a lot, interns. It's like, hey, we're in college. We need calories.
It's funny. I have a buddy who's looking for work, and he applied to, I think, Kroger bakery
Nice.
manufacturing or something like that. And I was like, I could never. I do not have the self-control to do that.
The best is when you pull into the parking lot, and some days you'd open the car door and you'd smell like chocolate muffins. That was just like, oh, look out. It's something about that. Oh, so good. Anyway.
I love working in food and bev for all those reasons. But I'm excited to hear that you have it kind of in your bones. In the early days, you were literally in manufacturing, dealing with control screens and things like that. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do too much with them directly, but it's like,
but you were in that space is what I meant. Yeah.
And having that context actually ended up really helping me out when I first started learning ignition, a couple decades later from that.
Yeah.
And, so, from there, I had a computer science degree, and I started a very early e-commerce company. So early that people are like, use my credit card on the internet. Are you nuts? No way. So you could use PayPal or Authorized Net, or you could mail a postal money order in. And had to be postal, because if you're going to goof off with that, if you're that's a federal issue. And so postal money order was a solid kind of workaround for that. You print off a little order form, and it made inventory keeping an absolute nightmare. I just ended up like literally memorizing most of the inventory, which I don't suggest anyone do that.
Okay, and now you came full circle and literally built a Maker Edition ignition inventory management system for your stuff today and spoke on it, and that is just so cool. Everything's full circle with you.
Yeah, it is. It's a little eerie. I would love to say that I've done it on purpose, but that's not entirely the truth. It's just kind of like, it just happens. But so I ran so I had a e-commerce company for about 12 years, made it profitable, slightly profitable enough, almost immediately. And then decided, I could really do a consultancy to help people not make all the same mistakes that I did. And so I did that for a while. I love solving weird problems. And the cool thing about e-commerce, if you're like doing your own fulfillment or whatnot, is you learn to automate real fast. Because if you pack and ship 20,000 packages with your own two little hands, you figure out how to automate that, because otherwise, when do you sleep? I don't know. So you think about a lot of things working at scale, even when you're working, at a small scale. So that's something that I'm grateful to have learned in that way. So
you took your own learnings and essentially utilized that to help others and fuel additional business opportunities. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And,
awesome.
People were like, hey, I've got this pain point in my, workday process. And it's like, oh, well, look at it. Let's look at it. And a lot of times it is going to be related to shipping. And we've got amazing tools now that, integrate with any number of your sales channels. And, if someone is typing in an address, I'm like, oh, sit down. We are going to change your life today.
It's a real thing, because you think that because it's something that has to get done, that it's just a requirement of the job. But if you take a step back and say, am I doing something that is repeatable, that could be done by a machine, and I get my, I don't get carpal tunnel and I can regain this time back, or I'm not doing overtime, unpaid overtime to finish the rest of my job. Let's do that. Let's get those wins. And it might not be easy. At least now it's something that's more common practice, but it just is such ultimately a time saver. Yeah.
And Justine, I have to say, like, I know you're not a non-believer in AI at this current moment, but Adrienne is embracing it to literally save time and do efficiency gains and make her life more amazing.
I was going to say, I have, automations definitely play a big thing into that. And I'm going to be rolling out a content series that is specifically created by a series of calls that are run through a series of prompts. So I can't wait to drop that. Look for that on LinkedIn over the next 3 to 4 weeks. It's going to start kind of coming out. And I realized, this could be systematized. This could be, pushed into a parameterized prompt. And that's something else that I do. I have a couple of almost, I'd say 80% automated content websites, just kind of on the side, personal experiments. One started out as a way to rapidly upskill in a hobby. And it's like a 13-step automation that whenever I have a question about some aspect of this hobby, I can put a question into my Todoist account in my phone, and then that will trigger off 12 to 13 step automation that will put a draft of a blog post answering that question in one of my websites. And then it will give me a task to go edit that on a Saturday. So
oh my God, that's incredible.
That's been a way that I've been able to rapidly upskill, because as I'm sure you're going to get to, we've been in some interesting on-call situations where you needed to learn a totally new thing yesterday. And this kind of came out of that thinking. And I have a lot of funny theories about how we learn that have really gotten honed over the past 3.5 years, as I've tried to just absolutely cram as much usable info into my brain. Like, we're not talking about passing a test. We're like, okay, how can I get functional and good on this entirely new subject yesterday? And so that's something I'm always working on. And this kind of multiple AI step, because I go through and I fact check the answers. And in the course of editing and fact checking, I've found that's a really good way for me to learn. I mean, everyone's different, but that's been one way. Another way too that I actually stole from Apple shortly before COVID happened. I was actually in San Jose for a week, where I was helping and lead a instructor course for a really specific fitness niche. That's a whole nother story.
You have the craziest stories, Adrienne.
I know. I feel bad because sometimes I'm like, this sounds nutty. Like it's not. I'm not like that guy in The Usual Suspects. It's all true. It's all over the place. And anyway, so I was out there and they had Today at Apple. I was like, I want to do a Today at Apple HQ. They've got that cool building. I'm going to sign up for whatever. And so I did, and I had a great time. It was like, shooting videos with your phone. And I noticed the pattern of how they teach these classes. And I asked the guy, I was like, hey, you guys teach these a really specific way, and I really like it. Can you tell me more about that? Ends up, he's someone who's involved with creating the courses. So I get my notepad out and I'm just scribbling away.
Nice.
Yeah. and really the three pieces are this. One, you teach the interface. So, what are the buttons? What do all the buttons do that are involved in the task we are about to undertake? The next thing, they show an example and then give you an exercise and then have you share it if you wish. And yeah, you learn how to use this thing that you've bought better. You enjoy the learning process, and it makes you kind of want to learn more and probably buy some more Apple products. And I was like, well, shoot, can we do that with Ignition? So I do have a guinea pig, and yeah, and the answer is yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, there's a lot to Ignition. I don't want to say that that we've done a complete, okay, all about Ignition now, but it's like,
yeah,
you can get around the gateway, you can know to keep clicking. Sometimes things can get confusing in there as to where they are and where you think they might be and all that good stuff. But
yeah. Justine's familiar with Ignition, and she knows that if she needs something on the screen, she needs to come to me and we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Also totally legit.
Go ahead, Justine.
I wanted to just compliment Adrienne on her ability to interface with the world in a curious way, because what a interesting takeaway when most of the time you're just at the mercy of whoever's presenting information to you, and you're just supposed to digest what you do. And a lot of people are pretty concerned about making sure that they get what's going on and look like they're following in step, right? And you had the kind of curious mind to say, this feels kind of regimented, and I like the rhythm that you create. What is it? What's your protocol? And thankfully you were around somebody who's willing to share that information with you, and that helps you learn and it helps you apply to a different space. And I just love to highlight when people are approaching the world from a creative way. It's helpful because not everybody feels comfortable interrupting or doing something that is not like fitting in. And that's cool because it's ultimately way useful for what you're doing as well.
Oh, totally. And I can be useful in that way too. Is I will blurt out the question that probably a few of us want to know, because I have no shame in that regard. I'll just ask.
It's important. It's important for sure.
It's like, look, guys, I know I'm not dumb, so it's going to be all right. I can ask the question, and if I take a social hit, yes, I'm going to say something else awkward later. So it's like, hey, it's not if, it's when. And if I get to learn something in the meantime, well, let's go rock and roll.
But yeah, I think people are too afraid to sound stupid, look stupid, whatever. But that's just ridiculous, because there's no way we all know everything, and everybody should be curious and not afraid to step up. And it reminds me of when I first started at a place and I was told, like, don't use acronyms, blah blah blah, because what I was told is females are better at like asking for clarification, but in general males and a lot of people will generally not ask what an acronym means, so let's just not use acronyms. And I just thought that was really funny, and I don't know that I agree exactly of the gender stereotypes there, but I mean, the point is you need to be okay to stop and ask, and you shouldn't worry about what other people are thinking or somebody's going to think you're stupid. Like, we all get better by asking questions.
For sure.
Well, and here's the thing too, I mean, in this field, you can reach abbreviation and acronym saturation to where you're like, we've run out of letters to use, and now we're recycling, and no one knows what we're talking about. And like, hey, let's take a minute. Or when in some of my consulting gigs, I've if you're talking to C-suite and they are not elbows deep into the technical side of things. They don't want to feel stupid. There's certain crowds that I will not abbreviate things in front of.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, because otherwise
Yeah.
you're going to see their eyes glaze over, and you see that you've lost them. You're going to lose the account, or, you know, there's going to be some bad mojo there that you don't want. And, you know, if I hear someone else use the acronym first and it sounds like, you know, we're all talking about the same thing, then okay, yeah, all right, I'll use it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've even gone so far as at a job that I'm working, I'll have a quick list acronym or a dictionary, because sometimes acronyms are different for different groups.
Oh yeah.
And it is I will always ask, because I will not be able to sleep at night if I don't have an answer to something. But I'll bring it up and I'll say, what does that stand for? And sometimes it's hilarious. Some people don't actually know what the acronym
but they
stands
use it
for,
confidently.
but they use it because they know what it means, like what the essence of it means.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I don't actually know what it is, but essentially it's this. And you're like, okay, so you write it down and you put the gist, and then you look it up online later, and then you actually have the definition.
Right.
This all feels like such rigmarole in the grand scheme of just trying to translate technical to functionality.
And some people conflate things, like they literally lie to themselves because they think they understand. And so asking for clarification is so freaking important.
Or sometimes, you know, they'll get, you know, perfectly, it'll make sense in their head, but they'll just say the wrong word because it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Everybody's tired, and they'll just get the wrong words stuck in there. And then you're like, wait, do you really mean this or this? You know, and just be like, and it's an interesting thing to navigate in a way that's not offensive. And that's a fun one. I had a run-in with the word data sheet. One word, no space, right? So when I say data sheet, what do you think of?
I mean, I think of an instrument and all the specs around it.
Right. Exactly.
I think of literal numbers from a process, like written down on a data sheet. So like raw data.
Okay. Very cool. There's a third thing, and that's what the customer had in mind. In his mind, he had somehow switched data sheet and spreadsheet. And he kept saying data sheet, and he meant spreadsheet. But I was assuming that he meant what Alicia meant. So like if you get an electronic component, it comes with a data sheet. It's like, hey, this is the voltage it needs. This is its operating temperature range, things like that. And I'm like, oh crap, how are we going to store that information here? Okay, we're going to, you know, we can take it into a blob. We can do this and that, but you only have this much room on your server. And then okay, we're going to have to build out this whole thing. Or, you know, I haven't really, I'm like, hey, so just for clarity, let me know exactly what it is you mean by data sheet. He's like, oh, you know, just like I wanted to export a CSV or something. I'm like, oh, okay, scrap that whole backlog. Like, okay, we just got like way less work on our plate.
Just by asking for clarification.
Exactly. Always.
That's funny. You guys are, because the actual definition of data sheet is like, you get a new instrument and this is like the specs or a sensor or equipment. And that is what a data sheet is. But my ass was like, yeah, it's like where you type in all the numbers. You like a spreadsheet. This is the sheet data goes into.
And if it can happen to Justine, it can happen to anybody. So
exactly.
Perfect point. You know,
exactly.
Like it's Friday, it's been a long week. You know, you might just get different words stuck in your head, and it makes sense to you, but it's like, oh, wait a minute. Let's all kind of regroup here for a second. Oh, cool. We don't have to build out this big whole thing and then change specs with your IT department, and it's just like, all that just goes away.
Yeah.
Just by asking clarifying questions.
Absolutely.
We love clarification, especially when someone like higher up is saying something that's not quite right, but people can't gracefully challenge it or
Right.
clarify it. But sometimes it just takes, it's kind of the embarrassment factor that Alicia was alluding to earlier, where a lot of people are not comfortable asking for things or feeling like they're stepping out of boundaries and doing something embarrassing.
Yeah.
And frankly, so many people are just like thinking what they had for lunch when they want to leave the office so that the traffic isn't bad. If, you know, the toenail clipper that they got for the dog is going to work. Like, they don't care. They're not going to remember like the thing that you hype yourself up for, unless you really flub it or insult somebody. If you come from it from like genuine curiosity, no one's going to write home about it. It's fine.
Exactly.
I think I accidentally offended a client a couple weeks ago because he was just kind of immersing himself in what SCADA means and learning about ignition and all that kind of stuff. And he basically said, yeah, I just read up on SCADA is what he said. And it's supervisory control and data acquisition for anybody that doesn't know. And I don't expect people to know, but I asked him, I'm like, so what does SCADA stand for? And he's like, oh, I actually don't know. I just kind of know what it means. And I felt like a jerk, even though I'm sure hopefully it was fine, but it's just it's going to all these points of like people use terms that they don't understand, or they might even know what it means, but they don't know what it stands for. And
when I first got into this industry, again, so many abbreviations, so many acronyms, and so I just started writing them down. It still exists. There's an Apple Notes, and it later became this giant glossary, and then it became this like giant blog post, because my boss at the time, I was like, dude, this is the most keyword rich thing we could ever put on the website, you know. And so that ended up being a thing. And I found out that someone at Inductive Automation loved it so much that they bookmarked it and probably look at it just about every other day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I love that.
And you're reminding me, so I don't know actually the story of what brought you to an industrial automation. So I kind of want to hear what happened there, and like, how do you feel now that you got immersed into it based on your previous career that was, you know, very technical, just different, right?
Oh, wait, I want to step even further back, and can you start with defining what industrial engineering is and then jump into your own experience with it?
Oh, okay. So I kind of came more directly into the automation part of it. So to me, industrial automation, I would think is, you know, you've got all of these things that talk to each other. They're making a thing. You're getting data out of them. You're making interfaces for human beings to do their jobs that they need to interact with, you know, the machine, you know, the larger machine being the plant. So that's kind of how I see that. What's fun about it is, you know, there's all these just ingenious mechanisms which could exist physically or in software. And I'm always up for an ingenious mechanism, and I'm always up for a plant tour. So that's why when several years ago, I was on Twitter one day, and I was kind of like, you know, I'd like to. A lot of the marketing stuff that I was involved with at the time was going towards social media, and I was getting tired of kind of this weird algorithmic conformity trend that I was starting to see across multiple platforms. And I was just kind of like, man, I gotta try something else, because I feel weird about this, and it just wasn't setting with me. And I see a post from Alex at Corso Systems, and he's talking about ignition, and I'm like, what's this ignition thing? And I go and I just start doing Inductive University for fun. I had just finished I love online courses. So I had just finished one about embedded machine learning that was super cool and super fun.
So cool.
Yeah, and I totally recommend that. It's on Coursera. It's from Edge Impulse, and it is excellent.
Embedded meaning that as data is coming in, the machine learning is digesting it, or what does embedded mean for
You're
those?
embedding, you're creating a model and then you're adding it into like embedded hardware. So you've got a simple processor, not like a supercomputer or anything, maybe like a little,
Mhm.
Arduino board or something that's kind of, just part of a machine. And it's not especially powerful, but you've already created this model elsewhere on someone else's computer. And then you can deploy that machine learning model on this kind of lesser, less expensive hardware and have it do something simple. It might be recognizing, hey, this machine that I'm sitting on is vibrating in, a particular direction, and it will recognize that.
Mhm.
The course does gesture detection using the IMU that's in your phone. Again, IMU, there's a fun one. That's a, oh gosh, and now it's gone out of my head. Look what you've done. Anyway, it detects basically motion, usually involves like a gyroscope or that type of sensor cluster. And anyway, so you end up creating this model that you can even use, create with your phone, and then you can deploy it onto like a specialized Arduino board. And you can say, hey, look, you're lifting the phone up and putting it down, and you're lifting the Arduino board up and putting it down, or you're moving it side to side. It'll be able to detect that if you've trained the model correctly.
And
So,
that's how I've always viewed embedded systems, is like PC board stuff.
yeah.
And I mean, right? Is
Yep.
that kind of, yeah, that's what I thought.
Absolutely. So like if you, heaven forbid, have a smart fridge, the controller in there can be regarded as an embedded system. So, as opposed to like the laptop that you might be using right now. That's, kind of its own animal.
Family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need my fridge narking on me looking at it at like midnight.
But you could hook it up to Inductive Automation's Maker Edition ignition. I'm just saying, and monitor what
It
your fridge is
doesn't need
doing,
to tell me that the door is still open when I'm eating my, cold lunch meats and pickles from the fridge.
I know.
Like, don't be a fucking narc.
But I do want to let the audience know what ignition is, because it's one of my favorite softwares, and it's for like, human machine interface, supervisory control and data acquisition and manufacturing plants. It's literally either dashboarding or it's like your control platform. So the operator goes in and hits start, and it talks to the programmable logic controller, PLC, and it tells the machine to start. So just wanted to give everybody that background.
Here's my dumb way of saying ignition. Like, if you have a touch screen or a computer screen to tell equipment what to do, ignition is the screen buttons and the way of navigating the actual equipment. So it takes your click and translates it into an actual valve switch or sensor feedback or physical motion on the equipment itself. And at the same time, it's tracking what the equipment is doing, any of the sensors on the equipment, and feeding that into what we call dashboards, which is essentially a summary of what's been happening on the floor, translated into a quick check. To make sure that you're either on schedule or that you're not having a lot of safety upsets or that the equipment's running shipshape.
And what's so cool about it is that it really is the glue between the software and the hardware, between abstraction and physical reality. And I think that's really the coolest thing about, this whole industrial automation field. So to answer your question, as we circle back around, I don't like unclosed loops. So anyway, I was on Twitter back when it was Twitter. I started going through Inductive University because like, oh, fun. Hey, this is free. It's an online course, rock and roll. Let's go. And then, a few weeks later, Alex is like, hey, I'm looking to hire some new engineers, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that doesn't really sound like me. But you know what? I started remembering that bakery plant and how fun and cool that was. So I messaged him and ended up, getting an interview and getting on board, and then just trying to learn as much of everything as humanly possible. And
and yeah, I mean, you became a player in the space, and I think I mentioned this at the beginning. You were literally speaking at the Inductive Automation Community Conference in Sacramento last month, and how badass is that? I'm so excited for you, and I was so excited to be there, even though these inductive automation women made me be a woo girl, which, you know, our podcast is woo manufacturing.
yes.
But like woo girl is not usually in my repertoire unless I'm really drunk. But I was there and I did it for you.
I identify as woo girl. I feel like you're attacking our people.
I know, I'm horrible.
Well, I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I have a friend who's in the executive speaking space, and I was like, you are not going to believe what happened. And she was like, oh my gosh, I would love for that to happen. I was like, it was the best. And then I'm like, well, we need to figure out how to offer woo as a service. You know, WAS, would that be WAS? Yeah. Anyway, but I'm like, you know, it was
woo
it was very
as service.
Yeah.
I love it.
WAAS.
Yeah.
Woo as a
Start
service.
calling.
Hey, new acronym, everyone.
Wow.
That is
Nation
so
just
cool.
dropped. But yeah, I told her about that. I was like, yeah, it was amazing. Could not have asked for a better crowd.
Yeah, and you had everybody laughing. Yeah, we're at time, but I just love this conversation, and I feel like you, Justine, and I could talk for hours, and we'll probably have to have you on again.
Oh, that would be great. Well, I enjoyed being here. Thanks so much for having me, and hope to see you online soon.
Yeah, great hearing your background, great hearing about your journey. So thank you.
Thanks.
See y'all next time. Have a great time out there.
Woo!